Hi, and welcome to another episode. My name is Charles. I'm your host today, and my guest is Matthew Jones. He's the Chief Technology and Communications Officer at Greenhouse Group, one of UK's leading automotive businesses. He oversees AI, automation, business intelligence, and software development, as well as marketing and communications across the group. His work focuses on applying technology and data to solve business challenges, enhance customer experiences, and drive growth across the organization. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me, Charles.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to be talking about beyond the buzzwords, building real world AI systems that actually work. So, from dev guidelines to cross team communications, how smart tech leaders are driving lasting transformation. And let's jump right in. You talked about AI the other day as just another tool in the toolbox. It's not the solution to everything. Can you talk us through how your team evaluates when AI should be used?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a perfect way of showing what AI really is, and that is it is a tool. So I think a lot of companies now, with all the hype and the worry of not being first to new AI solutions, is you come at the problem already with AI as your number one solution. I'm already going to fix this problem with AI. When if you're in technology and you're in development, you should know that you find the root cause of the problem first. You find what that problem is, then you look at endless amount of tools in your toolbox as a solution. So AI really, with all the hype that has been around, is just another tool. And sometimes it's the right tool, sometimes it definitely isn't. The way we kind of evaluate it here is we look at a few key metrics. So we're looking at speed. Is it going to improve the speed of something that we're delivering? Is it going to improve the accuracy? If we're looking at data analytics, things like this, is it going to improve that? But also costs. What are the costs involved in solving the problem? AI tools, especially now with people not really understanding what is available out there, you can be provided some very expensive AI tools, which you could have got to the root cause without needing to use them. I think we really also evaluate, is it going to improve the customer experience? That's the ultimate reason why any business is going to succeed. I think chatbots is one that we'll probably talk a bit more about, but it's a perfect example of, is it really solving the problem that you have with your chatbot to introduce AI? Especially at such the early stage that these bots were sort of rolled out and implemented on websites. It was almost too soon, I would think, on a lot of the times that I've seen and trialed chatbots on websites. But it seemed to be the whole sum of all this hype just ended up on chatbots, I think, and these large language models of what they could introduce.
Do you think it's marketing buzz that's causing this, where, obviously these products, they want to be able to sell, so they're going to tell you it'll solve this problem, it'll do this thing for you, it'll extend the life of your business, it'll keep you at the forefront of innovation, even though that might not necessarily be 100% accurate. These buzzwords and such, they work really well from a marketing perspective. So do you find that to be a sort of a rift between what marketing says it can do and what it practically can do?
Yeah, and I think it is that. And obviously, like a chatbot and things like this, and the large language models, they're so visible. You can see it. You know that that's AI, and you can be really impressed with it. If you haven't used a large language model, the first time you do, I think everyone is quite taken back with how good it is. So it is visible. It's on your customer-facing website. And if you work in just the background on AI, no one sees it. So how do I know that really you are using AI, or how do I know you're cutting edge? So it is a marketing buzzword, and I think a lot of it it's also just the fear of missing out, of not being the first. And a lot of the AI, if you look at the marketing and the communications behind it, it's all about how much money has it saved for my business. And then instantly you're thinking, well, why that could do that for me, and then you jump into it. But of course, they're going to say they've saved money. They're not going to come out and say, well, actually, we didn't. And um, the metrics that they come up with, they don't share how they've got to that calculation. So it's just that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm being left behind here. I need to jump in. And by saying something's AI powered, gets a lot of people excited, especially if you're not in the tech world, because you know that it's the buzzword. It's the thing that you need to say.
I think, and I don't mean to pick on Adobe, but I'm going to pick on Adobe anyway. When, for me as a designer, as a graphic designer, as a marketer, when Photoshop first came out and their advertising, the way that they marketed it, this was the tool you needed. And if you had this tool, you too could be an amazing artist. And I suppose the tool set was in there, right? But if you didn't know the basics of how to draw, then this tool was absolutely useless to you, because none of these things were actually going to make you a better artist. These were simply tools for artists. So, uh, and it's a weird comparison, but when you start looking at the way marketing is pushing out AI, do you think that that's what's kind of causing this chatbot craze, right? Like every industry, even the automotive industry, they want these chatbots, and we're talking about, like, surface level use cases, right?
Yeah, and I think an interesting thing with the chatbot craze is it's almost it's so easy to do the human versus machine and do that comparison of, is it better than a human in responding to these the messages that you can get. And I think a large part of that is then, once you see some success, you think, oh wow, we really can use this, and it comes into this, the cost saving, and well, we don't need to use staff anymore that can do all this. And I think that's an interesting part of what it is. And with marketing as well, you mentioned about creative, um, how you can be used, and it was marketed in creative. You also see it in the scientific field. Everyone is saying these AIs are going to solve all these problems for us, but of course, it's the scientists that are using AI as a new tool that will actually come up with the groundbreaking things. But um, yeah, it's easy to hype all this stuff up so much. And yeah, chatbots seems to have been the obvious one because of that human versus machine, but also just the large language models. They are impressive for what they can do. um, and it's, again, as we mentioned before, it's just so customer facing. It's the first thing that you can easily kind of bolt onto a website. There's very little you have to do to get one on there. But obviously the good ones that actually will last are the ones that you have this huge back office that you can train it on, that you can put guardrails together, that you can do that. That's the ones that will actually be successful.
Do you encounter resistance when, especially when you're dealing with like a CTO or a CIO who's fallen for the hype and they expect these instant turnkey results, or resistance or confusion? Have you ever encountered anything like that?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky in that in my role as the CTCO, I report to the managing director. The managing director sits on the board of directors. We're a privately owned company, so we haven't got all the shareholders to sort of worry about, and the buzz and the pressure that can build. So luckily, when there's been, when ChatGPT came out in my position, you could imagine how many people send me that link and being like, "Have you heard of this? We need to do this." And you think, "Yes, I have heard of it. Of course I have." But I was in the lucky position where I can sit in front of the board, explain the cautiousness behind it, the ethics, and the strategy of, you don't have to be first. I don't think in our business we're in a solid foundation. We didn't have to be the first to have the new best thing. We could wait until it had really caught up and been the best and was actually providing that value. And that was, we've had some things where we have thought, well, can we solve this with AI? And it's like, well, I can tell you I have, but of course I haven't. And it just comes down to trust. And I think, like I said, I'm very lucky that it's a privately, I'm close to the board, that you can have those conversations, and once you can cut through the hype with some examples, it it helps carry that conversation through, and ultimately the trust that I've been given in my position to actually look after this. And I've got very senior engineers that are also on the same thinking. So we get to play a little bit with these tools, and then we feed back to the board, and they can trust us with what we our recommendations.
That's cool that you're able to manage those expectations. So when they're really excited about, I saw this commercial and it looked like the greatest thing ever, you can bring it down a notch and say, okay, I saw it too. And let's walk through this, shall we?
Yeah, and I think another thing is you get sent these things of I've seen this on social media, I've seen this, I've seen that, and if you just go back with okay, but what problem are we solving? Like we're introducing a new thing that no one was really asking for it. It isn't something that's going to actually bring in extra revenue. Like, we are still limited on our resource with our time and with our developers. So yes, there's lots of things that we can do and bolt on, but they still need time to implement and to do well. And if you're putting money towards it, what's your ROI? Like it's all well and good just sending me things that you've seen on social media that look cool because it's AI, but really, what problem are you solving? What it is good at is seeing new tools, and then we get to play around and figure out, well, actually, this can solve this, or I don't have a solution. I don't need this right now, but it's there. I'm aware of it. If something comes up, I now know that this is now possible using AI.
I would argue that the race to be first is almost silly in a way. Like I get it in some terms, the race to be first, but the iPhone was not the first smartphone, and Google was not the first search engine. So there's something to be said about being first, but there's something entirely different about saying that you took what was already made and just perfected it.
Yeah, and those are perfect examples of I think that you've nailed it right on the head there, because you're right. Now you can't think of the iPhone. It wouldn't be where it was if it was the first. And AI, with all the hype and the buzz that came out of it, again, they are very impressive tools, but it can go wrong so easily. And if you're not controlling it, and if you're not, even taking into the fact of how do your staff feel about it? How does your employees feel about AI coming into the business? And we already have gone over this sort of fear with automations and kind of got used to it and working with automations and they understand the value. But just jumping headfirst into AI without explaining to your staff how you're treating it, how you're going to use it moving forward, how it's a tool and not a replacement. Again, just think of the damage that you could do by just, going full gun in straight away.
That's true. So they say that AI is going to make whatever you put it to more efficient. So if you have poor infrastructure, it's going to make that poor infrastructure more efficient.
Yeah.
And if you have, a poor planning, it's going to make that poor planning more efficient. So there's something to be said about building that infrastructure that's really going to support it, and having a solid plan in place before you then turn to AI and decide how it's going to improve it.
Yeah, and a lot of companies still struggle to get good quality data. And if you jump into an AI project and you've got bad data, I mean, you've just lost so much money and wasted it away, because AI is only useful with good quality data that is stable processes, that you can rely on that data. So you need to nail that bit down first. And I think data doesn't sound as sexy as AI. So people have talked about data for a long time. They still haven't really got used to the fact that just how important it is. Obviously, the larger companies do, but if you're getting into more independence, especially in the automotive world, it can be a little bit far behind some of the more leading industries. So getting data and understanding the value of that data as well. Before you go away and agree to give your data to a bunch of third parties, that there's a value to your data. If they're using it to train their models, then it's a value to them. So you need to know that moving into it. But of course, all of that just takes time. It takes reading. It takes looking into.
All right, talk to me a little bit about your document workflow. Obviously, we come from Foxit, so everything that we do is all about document workflows. Now that AI has kind of been brought into this, and we've seen technology grow and grow faster and faster, how has that affected your document workflow? The last time, and again, I can only go off of my own personal experience. The last time that I went to a car dealership, there was a mountain of paperwork that I had to sift through. And it was sitting next to this rickety old printer, and they would print out all the
Oh, I
different
see.
sheets and they would present me
Yeah.
all the, and I would have to go through each and every one of these things and try to figure out what they all said. And it's just a lot to go through. And now we have AI. So from a consumer standpoint, when I go in now, I can bring my phone with me. I can look at a document and have AI look at this and explain it to me and summarize it for me and give me the details of what is this I'm about to sign before I actually sign it and such. So I'm just wondering how that affects everything that's happening in your industry right
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so it has had an impact. One of the beauties that it has done is allowed for customer personalization. So if you are looking more digitally inclined and you want things through email or you want things sent to your phone, it allows to have that sort of speed. As soon as you say that, we can provide those documentations how you like that. Another thing that's helped with for us from a compliance point of view is just making sure that those processes are so locked in that you can't move into the next sort of stage without you completing certain compliance that we need here, whether that be finance or
now.
anything like that. So I think a big thing for me that I really liked is our demographic is it ranges. We've got new cars, used cars, expensive, lower end. So we've got all these demographics, and of course, people interact with things differently. But allowing it to have customization that will always be right if we can have a system that remembers how you prefer to have your documents sent to you, so that you can use summaries. Then that saves us a little bit of time. What we're a bit cautious on sort of document summaries is obviously just in case it's missed something. We don't really like to provide that summary. We'd rather you have your own tools and take that as your own. We will send you everything if you like, and then that sort of document summary is kind of on the user. We have some on, it's a bit different, but use AI generated descriptions on cars, things that just help you get to the points of what you're looking for. If you've searched for, if we know that a transmission, if it's manual or automatic, is important to you, we can personalize that AI description to make sure that it matches what you're looking for. So yeah, it's definitely helped, and it's all about efficiency and customer preference.
I definitely know the dangers of summarization. Uh, I sent a video to somebody once, and I wanted them to check this out. And the video was like 12 minutes long or 13 minutes long, and it was time that he did not want to spend watching this video. So he threw the video into AI and said, "Hey, summarize this for me," and it gave him a summary. And then he came back to me and he said, "Well, yeah, that was kind of interesting because I thought this and this was interesting," and I realized he'd completely missed the point. There was a really important part in there that I knew applied specifically to him, but the AI didn't know that. It just provided a summary of the overall video experience. So I can definitely see where that could end up being a problem if you're trying to provide a summary to somebody, and because it's not very personalized, it's this very generalized summary that might be missing some of the most important selling aspects of the vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. Context is all. AI will always struggle, I think, with context, and this is why having that human interaction is still so important. Because even from a sales point of view, if a chatbot was or any bot said, "Hey, do you want this additional add-on?" It's so much easier to say no. No, and then the bot knows, "Oh, I won't ask that again." But if you're talking to a human being and you actually get to know them a bit more, and then you can think, well, actually, this add-on, what you mentioned, this actually can help you. I think it just shows again that, especially in sales, it's all still about that connection, human connection, and understanding context, and yeah, just that human stuff that AI will always struggle with.
I've noticed that as AI rises and we're starting to see more and more of these, automated response, even the ones that are very personalized, we still know that this is coming from some kind of automation. And at first, we had all thought that because of this rise, the human connection would fall. We become more isolated, we become more glued to our phones. I've been seeing the opposite. I've been seeing where the value of human connection and human created content, or, just speaking to another person, I've seen that actually rise in value. I don't know if you've seen the same thing in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're a big believer, well, especially myself, of if I'm providing something that's AI written or something like that, it's very obvious to tell. We tell you this is an AI assisted bot, or very open with that, because I think I've interacted with some bots and that it's a bot, you can test it and you can do all this, but it won't tell you. And I just think that just the trust between a consumer and a company, that just all gets washed away. Because if I know you're lying to me that you're using a chatbot or any sort of automated process, then I'm not going to trust you again. And you're right that it comes down to customer preference again. Of depending on what I'm doing, I'm happy to not talk to a human just to get something booked in. But if I have a problem and I want to be able to know that there is still somebody there, content I think is a really really good one. Images are being produced very well now. Video is getting there. It is becoming all just you can produce a pretty good AI video, but it's something about
I have a whole episode on video creation. It is both a blessing and an absolute nightmare.
yes.
Yeah,
It does produce some stuff that will keep you up at night. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it does.
And I don't know if it's because I understand a little bit from the marketing point of view of what goes into actually producing a good video and this content and the skills that you need to be a graphic designer that kind of just get washed away with AI. I don't know if it's that causes me to not get that attached to AI generated content or not, but I do think that you're right that more and more people are valuing the human connection a bit more. And surprisingly, I think I've seen it more in the younger generation now. That actually,
really,
you would think that there's almost like a rebellion a little bit about technology, that it's getting a bit too much. So those that you think, well, they must always live on social media, and they say, no, I don't really have an account, or they're actually more confident picking up the phone. I've seen in a couple of employees that my generation and millennials didn't want to do that, and I just feel like there's a little bit of a shift. The more AI is coming, I just feel like maybe some of the younger generation are actually thinking, let's just fight back a little bit and not go down that dystopian path that you could end up on with AI.
Do you remember there used to be an AI system? We call it an AI. It was just predictive text models, but you would call a place or they would call you, and you knew it was an automation. And you would respond, and there would always be a pause, and then it would respond back, and it would always sound cheerful. And you would ask, are you a robot or are you a real person? And then it would pause, and it would always laugh. And then it would say, of course, I'm a real person. And then you really would just feel lied to. Like, there's no way you are a real person.
Yeah, and I just don't see the benefit really in lying. It's just so much of it. You will be able to tell, and it's easier to just be upfront. And of course, from a company point of view and as a business, it just gives you that extra reassurance. If something does go wrong, you can say, look, from up front, that it was always AI. It wasn't like we were hiding something. You don't get trapped in this rabbit hole of, well, it said it was going to do this, and then you say, well, I know it did, but it shouldn't have done. And like, you just, especially when you're using third-party systems that are not yours, you still have a responsibility to make sure that that stuff is working well. And we've seen that with like recruitment, people using AI to scan through CVs, but then it turns out that whoever trained the model was biased against certain genders. And you think, well, you can't just say, well, that wasn't our system, we bought that off the shelf. As a company, it's your responsibility to make sure that that thing is tested. And so that's, again, it's just being fully transparent with staff, with employees, with anything. With anything in use in AI, I'm a big believer in being transparent.
Now, you actually build your own systems, right? You build your own in-house AI systems, or your own in-house tech systems, I should say. What's been the advantage of that?
The biggest thing we've seen is we're very unique with it. There isn't really another dealer group in the UK that has their own internal software team, but the team has been going now for probably about 12, 13 years. And you can imagine along that time, we have built bespoke systems that have always worked. If we bring on a third-party system, it'll do a good job, but there's always those little tweaks that you want to make it to be able to really fit into your business. And you'll always get either delays with third parties doing that, or they just won't do it, or they'll try and charge you another additional cost just to change the color of a button. They can try and charge you 50 quid or whatever it is. So we found that it's kept us unique. It's kept us very flexible. If things change, we can jump on it. If we see an opportunity that others are not taking, we can build software to help provide that. And I think it has allowed us to just get that extra edge that others can't quite match at all times.
Let's say there's a new AI system, you've received 10 emails from it already, and everybody's saying you have to check this out. And you look at it and you're like, okay, this is a maybe. You see some value in there. What's your checklist? What's your checklist to make sure that this is actually going to be something effective and not just chasing, chasing the red dot, chasing the laser?
Yeah, yeah. It's So this is when it gets a bit tricky because you have to cut through that hype, and then you second guess yourself when you think actually this is a really good system. You think, oh, has that hype done well? Was that just a really good sales pitch or not? So one of the things is this core thing I mentioned it before about just, is it solving the problem? How much is it going to cost? Is it long term? Is it going to add extra um, technical debt? Is it going to improve our accuracy? How can we see it changing with our business? Is there a long term, is there a 5-year plan with this AI tool, or is it something that actually is going to be replaced within 1 or 2 years? Well, maybe we should hold off. So there's a few. The checklist can sort of range between um, customers. What's the impact on the customer? Is it actually better than all our other tools that we can do? Is it going to improve that customer experience? And obviously the big one is just that cost of, could we do it cheaper ourselves? No. A lot of this AI stuff is, the prices sort of just started to come down now by providers like Microsoft. They've started to bring their pricing a bit more reasonable. I think they've took advantage of the hype and now they're slowly bringing things back down. So yeah, it's quite a long checklist of the little things that we just want to check before we go full in on an AI system.
Every new AI system that comes out, I can just about guarantee you somewhere in their marketing pitch is the word innovation. They have just innovated this or innovated that. It is probably one of the most overused words when it comes to AI, or really just software in general. I've seen it just way too many times. So the definition of it just becomes really, really loose, right? When you think about it, when you think about that word innovation, what does that mean for you personally?
Innovation is long term. I think it's measurable and it's sustainable. So if you look at, you're right, AI and innovation are very linked together, and it is one of these buzzwords now that isn't just within AI; it's just everywhere in technology. But if it's flashy and short-lived, then it's just theatre. It's not real. It's not real innovation. Innovation should be measurable, as I say. What's the return of investment? How are we going to track that? What are we willing to commit to? Is it 2 years, 5 years? And is it sustainable? Can we actually keep this going? Can we see it impacting our business further down the line? And with AI especially, it should be, is it environmentally sustainable? Is it, what kind of, all these new tools are hammering these servers and these GPUs are going crazy. And there's honestly, there's a real world impact to that. And businesses need to understand that needs to be considered in innovation, because you can produce very, very good technology, but the amount of energy that will use isn't sustainable. So that what comes back into innovation is, has that thought been put into it?
I would also include that innovation solves a problem by taking away some of the steps it would normally take to solve this problem, without adding new problems to it. And I'm going to throw a wild example out at you. We're going to make fun of Tesla for just a moment. I know they're not the only car manufacturer that does this, but when I first saw it, it was the door handles that go into the door.
Yeah.
And that was innovation. The most innovative door handles, because they go inside the car. And I thought, was there a problem with the door handle where you couldn't get to it before? So it needed to go away like this? And then, sure enough, winter came, and I'm in Michigan. So here come the ice storms, and here comes the cold and the snow, and it would freeze. And you would push the button, and it didn't have enough power to actually push the door handle out past the ice. And even after you chipped away the ice, it was still too cold and wouldn't come out. So they came out with an app that you would download, and the app would then connect to the car to unlock it so that you could get it open and then push the door handle out from the other side. There was like 10 new steps when it used to be I would just grab the handle and pull and it would open. So I think that was like the most blatant misuse of the word innovation I've ever seen
Yes,
in
yeah,
tech and automotion, but the automotive industry. But I
yeah,
don't know. You have to tell me if you think that's innovation or not.
yeah, exactly. And what was it trying to solve? You've already had to add another step into something to get back to where you were. The the best solutions improve the outcome. Obviously, this is an example where that doesn't always work. Um, I always refer to those kind of projects that because I've got a load of them, but they're just vanity projects. They're stuff that I would love to say that, oh, this is cool, this is flashy, we can do that. But really, there's no real world impact to it. So you just sort of keep that down on your list, whatever you use to track your tasks. You keep that there, and it just sits at the bottom, waiting one day until you've got nothing else to do that you can go there. But yeah, eventually I'll get to those vanity projects.
So is there an AI tool that's come out that you've looked at and you've actually like said, yes, that is real innovation. That is really slick. We have to have that.
I think one of the most recent ones that's really impressed me has now been the use of AI with our developers and actually writing code. So I was quite very interested in it at the start. As I said, we've got lots of systems that I would love to get back to and to a version 2 or a version 5, whatever it might be. But we never really get a chance because we get pushed on to the next big project or the next idea. And so when I saw that AI was now writing some code, we sort of tested it. It now is getting to the stage where we quite like it, that we think, wow, that's actually quite impressive stuff. That to me, having an AI running our help desk and support and just churning out some of the low hanging fruit that we actually don't get time to get to, that's really exciting. That I can really then see that suddenly where we're narrow focused because we're building one system and we're a limited team, suddenly if you can have these bots that you're just reviewing the code, not just writing it, and it's working away and they're churning away and they're adding the extra features, that's really exciting because we can get some really good technology going and impressive systems then.
All right. Last question. And this one, you don't actually have to answer it. I just think it would be really funny because you've had a chance to test a lot of different systems. So now that we've talked about one that you said that is absolutely innovation, has there been one that you've tried and you've said, nope, that is just going to add problems. That is not true innovation. That's just vanity or that's just silly.
I did see, so there was an article from, I forget the chap's name, but the CEO of Zoom, and he was asked about the future. And he said the future could be a bunch of digital avatars, but you don't need to send yourself, you send your clone, and they go and do that meeting. But of course, if one person's doing that, then the 5 people that are on the meeting have all sent their clone. And so he was kind of suggesting that he could envision a world where 5 clones are having a meeting, and that to me just was laughable because if you know anything about AI, it doesn't need a video avatar to discuss with each other. They could do that hour meeting within seconds just by talking in noughts and in binary, if you like. That's all they need to do. So that just again screamed. I understand why he said it. He's the CEO of Zoom. He needs a reason, to sell these digital avatars. But to me, it was just again, if you had 5 digital clones all working away, I mean, why do they need to be talking to each other as a human on a like? Why do they need to look like me to have that conversation? If we had this podcast and we sent our clones, if they were actually trying to get decent outcome, and they wouldn't need to actually have these avatars. So that to me was a little bit silly, but something that you could see people buying into, that they could understand the hype. I mean, personally, I do not want to be on a meeting where I'm talking to someone's clone. I'm not really interested in doing that.
No, and I don't think I would trust a clone of myself controlled by AI to represent me in a meeting. I have no idea what that clone of me is about to say.
No, no. What I do like is that in the technology side, I could control what other people's clones say, so I could ask my boss for a pay rise, and I could tell that clone to let it give me that pay rise.
All right. Well, we found a good use for that technology then. Matthew Jones, you are the Chief Technology and Communications Officer at Greenhouse Group. We have your links all in the description below, so everybody who's listening, I recommend you check that out. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure having a conversation with you.